One thing that our industry has learned from the time in various lockdowns is that we cannot take our foot off the technology pedal. Like an Olympian, the charge for further, faster, higher is relentless. And throw into that safer, sustainable, and greater productivity, then no wonder that aerospace and defence is at the sharp end of innovation. And high amongst these success stories is the development of artificial intelligence across the whole industry, both commercial and defence. But there are some concerns now with that AI being mainly unregulated. There could be risks behind all those rewards. Well, we're joined now by Grant McDonald, the Global Aerospace and Defence Lead for KPMG. Grant, welcome. Now, KPMG has published its papers, Thriving in an AI World, where the firms surveyed 950 decision makers on the issues around AI. So just, Grant, will you tell us, how does aerospace and defence compare, and where are we going with artificial intelligence?
Thank you, Alan. Great question, and thank you for highlighting our recent survey, which is the second in a series of surveys on this topic. And certainly it has changed in the current version because of COVID, as you point out. And it's interesting because I would really say that COVID has accelerated and really helped entities in a variety of sectors dealing with the new challenges of operating virtually. And it may not be a surprise to you, but our survey found actually that the functionality of AI in, I'll say, industrial manufacturing generally, but we can extract that or expand or surmise that A&D specifically is affected in the same way. In fact, as leading the pack, we found that 93% of our executives felt that the functionality of AI in that sector is really a focus area for them at this point in time. And maybe it's not surprising when we look at aerospace specifically, and we see, as you pointed out, the innovation that's occurring throughout the aerospace sector and broadly the defense sector as well, in terms of autonomous vehicles, working on initiatives around new products and new types of data analytics that are so important. But it's interesting. The flip side of that, I think, is important too, because the worry from the executives that we interviewed was that maybe it's happening too quickly, and the issue there would be: is the internal management of the risks in AI keeping pace with the ability to use it more frequently in industry and particularly in A&D?
Well, one of the risks then is that you're not carrying your people with you or having the workforce ready for the transition that you're going to need to keep up with the introduction of artificial intelligence.
That's a key question right now. On one hand, I think people, certainly management sees, and we're trying to make the argument with the employee base that, look, AI is going to make us all more efficient. There's the ability to do less mundane tasks as a human. But I will say it's important in AI as a whole that the human machine interaction is something that we can't forget about. So yes, we can train our algorithms to do whatever it is we're looking for them to do, but if we don't do it in a way that still encourages human interaction in terms of using that data and managing it in some ways, then we have a problem. Many of our companies that we surveyed felt that in fact, their people are ready, but I wouldn't want them to really leave that issue behind on the table, because if they do, they may be surprised and find that the people aren't on board as much as they thought. So it's a really key issue at this time.
Okay, we talked there about the data and the shared data reliance on data in order to make this work. And I think if we look specifically now at defence and the whole issue, we've got an autonomous unmanned systems coming through. And there are major issues surely on how we share information through cybersecurity and indeed the whole ethical question mark about the use of AI in defence. How do you think we're going to manage those risks?
Yeah, no, that's a good question as well. And, when you look at defense, this is clearly where the risk is highest, in my view. I mean, you look at some of the areas where AI is being used in defense, I'll say broadly, it's all about informed decision making. We're gathering data. We're trying to do it in real time. We sometimes only have seconds to make a decision on something in the defense realm, where we might have had, at least hours, if not days or weeks, in past years. And while there are some, I'll say, regulations that various bodies and countries and companies are trying to put into this area, it's still largely, I'll say, an unregulated area. So we're really, I think, trying to get people together on one page as far as, okay, we have all this information, we're using it, we're making decisions based on it. So I think it goes up from sort of a company level up to, I'll say, a country level, and beyond that up to, a level of, we'll say, Five Eyes community or broader communities that are trying to work together in terms of, that ability to share, because the issues that we're faced with AI, particularly in the defense realm, are really global issues. The cyber world doesn't care where you are, and you want to make sure you're, making the right decisions and taking into account any perceived or real bias issues. And I think, the biggest one is really still human judgment. The machine learning, intelligent automation side of this can only do so much, and frankly, thinking about the moral and the social and the political implications of the technology is something clearly that we have to have the humans do. So it's a great question. I don't think all the answers are there yet, but it's certainly a major debate around the sector at this point.
Yeah, okay, but one question I want to pick up with you on there is when you talked about the Five Eyes coming together and doing that. Look, you and I are fortunate that we live in societies that in the main practice good governance and tend to act responsibly. But there are those with autocratic regimes who might not adhere to ethical development and the use of AI in the same way. How do we compete against those?
Yeah, and that's so hard. And to your point, the rise of, if I can call it terrorism, really does apply to this area, and we've certainly seen, so many cyber attacks. They're in the news every day in different parts of the sector, and in fact hitting, many of the governmental organizations that, in terms of public safety and security and defense that, that are focused on this, and so really no one is immune to it. And it's not like there's a Geneva Convention that says when it comes to cyberspace and, the hacking into various databases and using that information for nefarious purposes is, we're all playing, in a world of, of gentlemen acting together, if you will. So that's a real problem. So I think we just have to be, much more cautious. In some cases, I suppose if the most major hack or issue comes to fore, that there would be other, sanctions that could be put into place against those nations. But I really think it starts at home, in terms of ensuring that the governance, the regulatory, and so on is taken into account. Because, in a way, we're building bigger walls, and that's one of the things, unfortunately, that we have to do.
Okay, so really going back to the beginning and asking you now to get out your crystal ball and look into the future. How do you see that future looking for the integration and development of artificial intelligence and indeed establishing control of what we do?
Yeah, it's a good summary question to close on, Alan. And I'll say, my view is the future is here. It's only going to change more rapidly. We certainly saw it through COVID, the acceleration broadly in digital transformation, with really, frankly, everyone around the world, whether it was from, working virtually to, factories taking on more of a, I 4.0 approach to pushing everyone really to say we're in a position now where we have to, work in different ways. So starting, really at a core level and maybe drawing back a bit, and I wouldn't say slowing the pace of acceleration, but catching up to it insofar as the, the framework for governance and the ecosystem around it.
Well, we certainly opened the Pandora's box, and I think there's a great message there to get out to the industry to just make sure that we might not be able to shut it again, but hopefully we can manage it. Grant, thank you so much for joining us on the programme. It really was great, actually. Thank you.
It was a pleasure, Alan. Thank you.
Well, I think we're going to be hearing a lot more of those issues at the FIA Connect virtual event on the 13th to 15th of July, where KPMG will be discussing these and other topics. Go to our website, wearefin.com, for more details. Goodbye.